my great-grandfather had 5 sons, and his oldest son, Leroy, unfortunately had polio, and he was confined to his bed. And he read in the paper that Massachusetts was among the very first states in the country to enact the compulsory auto insurance law. And he read that news and thought, this is a business opportunity for me.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am having a great day, Lindsay. I got off the phone with my insurance agent, and believe it or not, my home and auto policy, the rates went down. And for someone who lives on the coast, that is a happy day, right?
That is a happy day. Awesome. Well, I am, we get to have a lot of guests, and we've been doing some batch recording this week. And it's been really, really fun to spend a lot of time with agencies, get to hear their stories. I always feel like it breathes like fresh life into me when I get to talk to a lot of insurance agents. So today we have a new friend to both of us, someone we've never met that our colleague Thomas introduced us to. So I am really excited to introduce Lee Gaudette from Gaudette Insurance Agency to the show today. Hey Lee, how's it going?
Fantastic. Hi, Lindsay and Carey. It's also sunny here in central Massachusetts. We're having a beautiful, hot summer day. It's on my reader board sign, I've described this week as toasty.
Toasty. I like that. I really like that. That's a positive way to say you're hot, right? Love it.
Lee, I was doing some research on you and your agency before we jumped on. I saw in your Facebook group that you and the team actually recently did a river cruise. Is that what you call it? Like through your little town? I
have to admit, Lindsay, I'm not a giant user of our Facebook. I know it's important to do, but I don't consume Facebook. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I've been here at Gaudette Insurance for 35 years. So that's in other people's situation. And so I'm not positive what you're referring to.
Well, I was hoping you guys were like out earlier this week enjoying the lovely weather, and you were going to say, yeah, it was so fun. We do a lot of team bonding, things like that. Lindsay, it was great. Sorry about that.
It's so funny.
All sorts of marketing is good marketing. And I'm glad that you're stalking us on Facebook. I appreciate that, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Well, Lee, for the people who don't know you, how about we go here? This is something I know you'll know. For the people who don't know you, I always love the question, how in the world did you find insurance, or did insurance find you? Tell us your story.
So there's only 2 answers to this question. And the option A is I was born into it. And option B is I got into the business by mistake. And in my experience, there is no other answer to this ever. And I've interviewed quite a number of people myself who are in the industry, and it's always one of those 2. In my case, I was born into the business. I'm the 3rd generation of our family to shepherd our family business, which was founded by my great uncle 99 years ago. And we've been here in central Massachusetts, specifically the Blackstone Valley, for all that time, and basically focused on the blocking and tackling of looking out for our clients' interests ever since. I think we have an astonishing origin story. So if I can go on a tangent for a moment.
Absolutely.
My family came to the United States from Canada, where they had arrived in the 1600s. We came down during the early part of the Industrial Revolution in the 1840s or so to Massachusetts to take jobs making boots and shoes in a town outside of Worcester. And eventually my great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather became barbers. And in the old days, say the late 1800s through the 20s, barbers were much more the center of the community. They pulled teeth. They did all sorts of stuff more than just cutting hair, but he was really the center of the community. And my great-grandfather had 5 sons, and his oldest son, Leroy, unfortunately had polio, and he was confined to his bed. And he read in the paper that Massachusetts was among the very first states in the country to enact the compulsory auto insurance law. And he read that news and thought, this is a business opportunity for me. And he had his room moved downstairs in the house to right off of where the salon was, where my great-grandfather did his barbering, and held court from his bed. And that's how we get started. We wrote our first policies, to my knowledge, on January 1st of 1927. And back then, all auto policies were effective on 1/1. And so it's such a fantastic story of American ingenuity and overcoming adversity and all those things. I just love it. And then it gets better. My grandfather was 16 years younger than my great uncle. And when he was a teenager, during the Great Depression, he went to the next village down the river where there was another large community of French Canadian mill workers and opened our second office. So we've had 2 locations here in the Blackstone Valley for just about 90 years. And my grandfather spent his entire life at the agency. He was the entrepreneur of the Gaudettes, and so he also operated a number of other businesses. My father joined after studying insurance at UPenn in 1960, and he worked for 43 years here at the agency until he passed away in 2003. And I joined in 1990, so I'm in my 35th year here. And so, since I was taught, now Massachusetts has some really unique regulatory things. And one of the things that's unique to Massachusetts is the way that the registry of motor vehicles, or the DMV, depending on what state you're in, is very tightly tied to the insurance process here in Massachusetts. And so insurance agents actually handle the lion's share of all registry transactions. And in fact, today I have these little mini registry branches in our offices that allow us to issue plates for our clients. But in the old days, we needed people to stand in line. And so as a 5-year-old, I was a line placeholder because every registration renewed on the same day as the policy. Everything was 1/1. And so your registration expired and your coverage expired at the end of the year, every year. And so you could argue that I've been in this business for over 50 years already, but I don't count those early days where I just stood in line or pulled weeds. Those don't count.
So when I was a kid, I would go, my mom was working at the Big Eye of Ohio back then, and I would go and shred papers. So that was my first quote unquote job in the insurance industry. And I did a couple of other things like odd jobs, basically acted as a VA, like work we would give a VA now. It was my like high school job, right? I also don't quote those years as like my time in the industry, but I feel like I should. Like sometimes I'm like, you know what? I was like working in the insurance industry. That is so funny. So after all of that history, you still accidentally kind of fell into it? Like you didn't really want to be in the industry? And how did you personally?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is true. The irony is really kind of funny because my son, Peter, did virtually the exact same thing to me that I did to my father, which was I made him wait until spring of my senior year of college before I ever breathed the words, "Dad, I think I might maybe be possibly interested in coming into the business with you." And we have a firm outside experience rule for our family members. You have to work in another setting for 3 years before you can join the family firm. And so
great rule. That's a fantastic rule.
Huge huge role. It was a very, very valuable experience for me. And right now I'm watching Peter get his feet underneath him here at Gaudette Insurance. He's less than 2 months into his tenure here. And the head start he has as a result of the 3 years at a really fine independent agency in Charleston is paying humongous dividends to us and him. He is immediately gaining traction with our employees. He understands what he's talking about. He can add value to conversations in his first week. I can't encourage my peers enough to insist upon it if they're considering having a family member join them.
I would agree. Lee, I get to
Absolutely.
see a lot of agents, and the ones that they're born into it, they have no perspective. They, from my vantage point, I work on a lot of internal perpetuation. And if you don't have perspective elsewhere and all you know is what you've seen and what your parent before you has done, sometimes those transitions can be clouded by perspective that would be so much more valuable if you had another frame of reference, like not just when you first start, but what those expectations are through that entire career. So I could not agree with you more. You can tell the difference in generational agencies where the new generation brings perspective. You truly can. Certainly from an outsider's perspective, I feel like you can spot it from a mile away. So I agree with you 1,000%.
I would say the only worst mistake you can make than not insisting on outside experience is giving equity in the agency to children who don't work there.
Yeah.
Giving equity in the operation to non-participating family members is a recipe for discord and dysfunction. It's something to be
absolutely
avoided at all costs if possible.
Yeah, it definitely creates confusion and creates all kinds of challenges. So I could not agree with you more. It's almost like we're sharing the same brain around generational agency dynamics. But it's a thing from an outsider when you see that. I understand as a parent wanting to be equitable, but that's not the way because the business really could be impacted when we're talking about the health of the business. So yeah,
it's not fair to the siblings that are on the outside looking in, trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to the siblings who are running the place with these, other stakeholders with different interests and different understanding of what's happening. I feel like it sets up a very, very
tough dynamic, right?
That's a great way. That's
tough.
Not exactly the words I would have arrived at, but you captured the essence perfectly, Carey.
So before I move on to another topic, I do want to say something to you, Lee, because your history, I agree, your origin story is fascinating. But the thing that got me the most was, I don't remember exactly the family member, but the one that had polio and was in their bed. If you want to work, you're going to find a way to work. And how incredible that just seeing that in the newspaper gave him or her an idea of what they could do. And look what it's built. Like that's the craziest thing. And, I have a daughter that has some special needs and you got to think outside the box, man. There are limiting things for a lot of people, but it's interesting. And that's a pretty fascinating story. So
thank you.
Hats off.
I agree. That's why I like to share it.
Yeah. So you got some other cool, interesting things going on with you though. You have a radio show. Is that correct?
I do have a radio show. So this format for me is fairly comfortable. I use these headphones and microphone every week. Every Friday morning at 9:30 a.m., I'm on a Worcester radio station, which is 8:30 a.m. So 8:30 a.m. at 9:30 a.m. every Friday morning.
That's a little confusing.
And this is a 50,000 watt AM radio station. And one of the things I would say, in the same way that I sort of swore off Facebook as a personal user, but see the value in it, I am not a radio consumer either. I'm a streamer, podcast, particularly ad free if I can.
Amen.
And so this was a little bit of a reach for me. And it was really interesting when I got started, because I remember agreeing to do this. I had written a couple of local accounts, and one of them was a regional cable TV authority. And the guy in charge of that was also had a relationship with this radio station. He's like, Lee, you would be fantastic doing this radio show. And I'm like, come on, give me a break. And I often joked, and I've been corrected recently, but I often joke that I have somewhere between 5 and 10,000 listeners every Friday morning. Not 5,000 listeners, literally 5. Count them on one hand.
5. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Or 10,000. I did get some
It's like
stats. It is way more than 5, but I do a half-hour show that is about the insurance industry, and particularly focused on the independent insurance agent and why that's the best way to get your insurance in the world. And it's not a half-hour ad for Gaudette Insurance. I nearly every episode will remind our listeners that there are plenty of great independent agents in our market. And if you're working with one, great. If you're not, or it's been disrupted somehow and you want to try someone different, think about me, maybe. But it's not about that. And I have interviewed all sorts of people, insurance company people, from engineers, loss control, auditors, underwriters, marketing reps, executives, because this gives me a chance to ask your first question. How did you get into the business? And to remind people, almost everybody fell into it by accident. And this is, without a doubt, one of the best industries in the world to work in. It is fulfilling. It is not boring. I don't know why we have this reputation of not, all I look at it as all we do all day long is help people.
That's how I look at it too.
And the variety of problems to solve, and with this sort of annual tempo that's laid over it, which is the sequence of your clients renewing year after year. And so I know in September I've got these 6 clients that I'm going to see for sure, and hopefully I've touched them in April too. But you overlay this annual rhythm that has a way of making the years disappear in the rearview mirror. And I think it's quite a remarkable thing. So we've done stuff like warning seniors about big scams. If someone calls you and says it's their grandchild and, we need some Bitcoin, that's probably not real.
Probably not real.
We've celebrated a lot of the companies in our area that I consider to be top tier corporate citizens. We are very proud to represent the Hanover, which happens to be headquartered about 20 minutes away from my headquarters. And the Hanover is a fantastic corporate citizen in Worcester. So forget that they're a quality insurer, committed to the IA channel and all those other things. The support that they provide to the city of Worcester is remarkable. And so we use the show for things like that. Where I'm trying to get to, and haven't quite succeeded yet, is I want to have video and build the shallow dive, medium dive, deep dive into any topic. So how to set up your homeowner policy.
Yeah.
I can give you the 2-minute snippet that you can listen to, or the 12 minutes, or a full half hour. We're building out that library. And so that's for our website and our purposes. We're filming one show a month, and we're building out that content now. I have to admit that for the past 6 or 7 months, I've woken up on Friday morning at 6 wondering, what the heck am I going to talk about at 9:30? But I've pulled.
That was going to be one of my questions for you. it's hard. I mean, we've done this show for 135, upwards of 35, in between 135 and 140 episodes. It's tough. And, we don't do solo shows very much. We oftentimes have a guest, but they're both just as challenging. If you have a guest, you have to either find someone that you
Yeah.
know and connect a topic to it, or find someone you don't know and try to figure out what to make a show about them, right? It's tough. I can't imagine doing it by myself and thinking it up every day. So do you have like a content calendar you use, or is it really just kind of sometimes you're waking up and trying to figure out what to talk about?
I try to come up with something on Thursday night before I go to sleep if it isn't pre-planned.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we have a guest,
Uh-huh.
it's been scheduled a month in advance. If we're videoing it, it's been scheduled and thought through and planned.
Good.
And so
Yeah.
part of it is I need to get better at not making that my job and engaging some members of my team to help
Sure.
brainstorm who are we going to talk about, what might be interested in hearing, reach out and actually
Totally.
connect with those people and get them scheduled and so that I can, be the talent as opposed to the producer and the talent.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Lee, obviously, your agency has evolved quite a bit since the inception of the agency. Tell me what changes you made in the agency when you took over from your dad and what you envision your son maybe doing as he builds his career. Like, because you're kind of in between, like, what you've done, you're looking at the industry. What do you think? Where do you think that's heading? I would love to hear that from you.
I think the pace of change will not be as rapid as we fear right now. In other words, when we look up in 5 years, things will be different, but they won't be everyone in a driverless car and no auto insurance and, IA channels done. That's not, it's not going to happen that quick.
Right.
Now, can we, we are on the one hand used to operate a business where our own employees typed the policies in triplicate on carbon paper, and it was extremely labor intensive, and we enjoyed average commissions that were around 25%. And now, of course, half the time the policy never even ends up on hard paper. It's a PDF and it's emailed to us and to the client, and the client might file it away, or they just know to call us to chase it. And so the ways to serve your client are going to change pretty dramatically. And AI is a huge difference maker, and is going to be massively helpful with productivity. And so, you can look at it this way. When I was a little boy, we had probably 20 employees across 2 locations. Today, we have 50 employees across 5 locations. But our business measured it just in PIF, never mind dollars, is probably 5x. So you don't need this. It's not the labor intensiveness is different. And as long as you keep the number one thing number one, I think the long term is going to be just fine. And the number one thing is always protect the interests of your client first. If you cut a corner and do something that's in your self-interest and not in your client's, it destroys the long-term value potentially of that relationship. And in a community like ours, where we literally write every other house here, you can't survive.
No.
You have to live it, the fiduciary thing, every single day. And we're here to serve our clients. And that has a lot of faces. It can be we're serving them in the insurance transaction. We're serving them by stepping up to run town boards or nonprofits, very much like the classic independent insurance agent of the decades past. We've hung on to that because it's part of our commitment to service.
Yeah. It's funny you say, if you put the customer first, things come in perspective pretty quickly. And someone once said to me, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And you've got to be really thoughtful about, while this is an option in our agency to automate something, to change the process, to do whatever it is, you have to pause and say, is this making it better for my customer? And if it isn't, is it making it more clear, frictionless, whatever? That's great. But if it's changing the advice or the understanding and really eroding the relationship, you got to ask yourself, why would you do that? And there's no upside to them. I agree with you. It's very well put. If you put them at the center, all these other things really come into play. And I also agree with you. This industry, I think AI will change a lot of the way our lives are, period. Like, not just forget insurance. Like, it is changing, just like the internet changed it, just like everything has changed. Progress changes things. But there are some things that are just true through the entire thread of any generational change and relationships and how we interact as human beings, I think is going to stay pretty steady. So this industry, as complexity grows, I can't imagine we're not going to rely on the people we know, like, and trust to help us navigate it. So I agree with you 1,000%. It's kind of comical to me when I hear people say there won't be any agents. I'm like, well, you're living in a different world than I am, because the complexity of insurance today is far different than what it was when I was younger. And I don't think it's getting any easier, for sure. No, and
it's not.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
I agree. The other key in this business is focus on the relationships. It's not just, and we conceptualize that as a triangle with our clients, our carriers, and our community. We're at the center of that. But the carriers are a key part of this. And some of them, they're like, just email us and we don't really want to know you. And, it's different. We're blessed here in New England with a group of mutual fire insurance companies that are just amazing partners. And we very highly value the ability to build relationships with those people. But in this particular industry, you can't nuke anybody. You can get angry, but you pretty much have to keep it to yourself, because you're going to look up and that person's going to be in a new chair that's key to you in 4 years.
It's true.
And if you haven't handled yourself with honor and integrity, you risk poisoning the next thing that you really need.
That's right.
100%. 100%. Well, Lee, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was great to meet you and learn more about you, your agency, your community through this podcast. I have a feeling that you will continue to do great things and your son will continue to grow inside your agency. And I look forward to staying in touch and hearing how that all goes. So thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate the invitation. It was fun. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.